What's up, team? Brother Aaron here, Team Ruach, TeamRuach.com. We have Brother Hank here, real world missionary, out there doing great things. And I just wanted to bring him on and let him share his testimony. Not his testimony, just let him share what he's doing. He's bringing great value to the kingdom of God, and I want you to hear about it. So, Brother Hank, you want to tell us a little bit about who you are?
Sure. Thanks, Aaron. My name's Hank Dodge. I am a member of a local non-denominational Christian church here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I just retired from the Army after 30 years.
30.
4 years ago, it seems like yesterday. We do small, short-term missions.
Short-term missions, okay.
With a local church. And we deploy to our target country, which right now is Thailand. And we've been going to Thailand twice a year for the last actually 6 years. We started doing it before I retired. But my wife and I go, and we generally will take a team anywhere from 6 to 8 folks. And we do what's termed a medical mission.
You do a medical mission,
But
okay.
It's much more than that. But that's kind of the carrot. That's the
Yes,
entry, if you will. And we've been marginally successful. And that's why when we first started going to Thailand, it wasn't our intent to continue into Thailand, because the Lord hadn't really shown us. Many people have a people group or a specific region
Sure.
that they're drawn to. That's where He showed us that we could make a difference. And so far, we've been blessed with kind of the ability to manage as lay ministry. We're not on the staff, we're not on payroll or any of that
Okay.
for this for our local institution. However, they've given us the reins to identify team members, to
Okay.
cultivate a team, put together the package, and then we make all the travel arrangements
That
and
sounds
everything.
awesome.
So it's very liberating. It can be stressful on occasion. However, so far we've been pretty blessed, and the returns are just magnificent. I'll talk about that in a little bit.
How long are your trips, man? You go twice a year? How long?
Typically, the trips are 2 weeks, but with travel time, because it's impossible to get from North Carolina to Bangkok and then to the corners of Thailand in 48 hours, it typically takes us almost 72 hours to get
In the country.
where we need to be.
Okay.
So we will leave usually on a Wednesday night. We'll either drive up and pre-position ourselves in Raleigh, or we'll drive up there overnight, get on an early flight up through New York, and then over to Bangkok 14 hours later-ish.
Yes, sir.
Then we have a couple hours to kill before we get on another plane in Bangkok to get down into wherever we're going. And we hit all 4 corners of the country and have done so a couple times now that we've been involved in this one. But the folks we partner with have been doing this for over a decade.
Okay.
So they speak the language fluently.
Nice.
We have an Australian pastor who's one of our partners. We have a American surgeon who is the team leader. And so they pretty well know the country inside out. And then we shepherd the team that's represented by this local church here in Fayetteville.
Okay. All right.
And so we come in, we will partner with other churches that they're affiliated with, that they'll bring in. So we've had like a split team where we come in with 4 or
Nice.
5, they've come in with 4 or 5, 3 or
Yep.
4. Yeah, so it's pretty interesting, never a dull moment. And we jump every night. So normal battle rhythm for coming in on one of these things is we'll travel for 72 hours, so you're exhausted. They try to give us a few hours or an overnighter before we jump into actually doing. So you leave on a Thursday morning, you'll get into country Saturday somewhere, and then Sunday we attend church with the Host Nation Church, which
Nice.
is a Christian non-denominational
Okay.
church that called the Hope Church of Thailand.
Hope Church of Thailand. Okay.
Yeah. They facilitate, care and feeding after, of course, for any salvations that we incur.
Nice.
They facilitate, all the arrangements for us while we're in country. But most importantly, the hard work starts when we leave, of course, because they have anywhere from 400 to 800 salvations.
Wow.
That yeah, it's magnificent. It's amazing. We've seen everything from miracles to, you know, there was an individual on our last trip. I imagine this gentleman was in his 60s, and he came in with a walker because he couldn't walk. He looked like he had suffered a stroke or some sort of paralysis.
Yes, sir.
And we prayed over him, and Pastor Chris, our Australian pastor, prayed over him. He speaks fluent Thai. He speaks 6 different languages. But we all laid hands on, and he dropped the walker, and we led him across the room 20 feet and back, and we videoed it. And we were all laying hands on. And then later he came back that Sunday to attend church, and then we got reports subsequent to our departure that he had gone to a cane, and then he completely discarded the cane shortly thereafter. And so, I mean, it is really earth-shattering. It's the real deal. It's biblical.
Praise God.
And so, when they see that, just the fact that we're there, their first question is, why do you come from kind of America's the land of milk and honey to many of these people in third world countries, and they're like, why are you coming here? To are you on your vacation? We're like, well, we just wanted to show a little love with no strings attached.
Right.
Show you the love of Christ. It's kind of what we think we're led to do. And they just, you don't have to say one other word.
Mm-hmm.
We get into country on Saturday.
Yeah.
We get any sleep we can get and recover and do a church gathering or attend church with the host nation church, either in Bangkok or in the Four Corners up in Chiang Mai or wherever we're going to be running the clinics for that duration. And then Monday morning, we will meet at a predetermined site in a predetermined town, in town square, in the school, in the wherever the venue that they've elected for us. And we'll run the clinic. Mm-hmm. We'll run the clinic from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Okay.
Once we break it down, we do a small after actions review and kind of a scrub. It's very military in nature. This is all, to me, it's not foreign one bit, being an Army guy. We try to improve, but we pack it all out. We jump in the van, and then we'll drive like 2 hours.
Wow.
On average, to the next province or the next town, wherever the next venue is.
Yes, sir.
We'll find a hotel that's already been coordinated, check in, get something to eat, bed down, get up at 4:30.
Yep.
Typically, because we do devotion, we do our own team internal prayer time and whatnot. Then we get ready, we get to eat, and then we show up at the next venue and we do it all over again. So that goes on for 5 work days of the week, Monday through Friday.
Yep.
And then Saturday's kind of a reset. Sometimes what we'll do is bring in a second half of a team.
Yep.
Because the folks that volunteer to go on these, like Brother James was going to volunteer to go on one of these. Well, he's got a full-time day job here in the United States.
Right.
So he has to take leave from the hospital or wherever he works.
Yes, sir.
In order to come work with us
for
free, donating his time and energy.
Sure.
So a lot of people can't afford to just take 2 weeks off at a stretch. And, so what we'll do is we'll set up 2 split teams.
Nice.
We'll set up 4 guys or 5, 6 girls, whoever, and they'll come in for week 1. Then we'll take them back to Bangkok, which means getting on a plane, flying them back, putting them on a plane, kiss them goodbye. They fly back to the States. We pick up the second team, bring them in, and that's kind of the model that we're trying to lay out for the future.
Yeah.
And that'll do a couple, 3 things. It lets a lot more people experience and participate.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, for every one of us that's on the ground doing the activity, there's a whole network of family, friends, church members, brothers, sisters, donors, fellow, so it really does kind of perpetuate itself, and it gives many more people the feeling of participation, even if they can't take off from their job and go,
Yes, sir.
So it's unfortunately the airfare is kind of that's about as expensive a plane ticket as you're going to find if you try to fly to to Thailand, it can be upwards of $2,000
For a round trip?
But yeah, but if you're, and that's not including in-country flights. That's just a round trip ticket from RDU from Raleigh Durham to Bangkok and back. But if you're frugal, and my wife is the best, she can get on there, and there's one of the gals up at the church that can do it in her sleep, and they sit with their smartphone and kind of thumb through it, and they use the travel sites. You can find tickets at under $1,000 if you can program it out further.
Yeah.
And so we're starting to try and project out as far as we can.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the pandemic kind of put the kibosh on a lot of that planning.
Yes, sir.
We had a team of 8, and we were bringing members from our church, has church plants in other states, and we were bringing a couple folks from one of the other church plants in Florida. And that was going to be the first time that we coupled with our partners down there. So that was going to be kind of cool and very robust, and we were, hopefully we're going to pull that off on October's trip, since we had to shelf the May trip because of the pandemic.
No kidding, huh? It's getting our attention pretty well. So let me ask you, Brother Hank, would you consider yourself a visionary, or would you consider yourself a technician?
I'm probably more a technician.
Okay.
And after 30 years in the Army, I've worked with many visionaries.
Okay.
And so I feel semi-qualified to, a lot of people would jump on, I'm a visionary because I like to think way forward. But I personally am comfortable looking in the mirror as a tactician and a technician.
Right.
Because we're executing God's plan, number one, not my plan.
Okay.
We're executing partner church plan in Thailand, not my plan.
Right.
Number 2, we're executing my partner, my surgeon partner and my Australian pastor partner, and they've got their own organizational ties, so they've got a plan.
Right.
And then we're executing my local church plan.
Sure.
So, I'd like to think that, this is all very visionary and I'm forward thinking and looking. However, there's a lot of people that have come together to put together the plan, because there's a lot of moving parts. It could be very complex. It could be very daunting.
Right.
But it always seems to work. God's always got his hand in it. And
Amen.
If and when it becomes too confusing, we all take a deep breath. We kind of say a prayer or two. Everybody takes a knee and kind of calms down, and then we go back at it, and it always works out, always. One time we had the local kind of militia. We were way out on the border up near Cambodia, and we had a local politician got ruffled because we depend on the host nation to coordinate with the infrastructure of the Thai government.
Sure.
And they've got medical infrastructure just like we do.
Yeah.
And so, one of the local authorities out in this town had not been advised or had not been informed that we were running this free clinic. And kind of got a little ruffled feather and went and got the local law enforcement, who went and got the local military representatives. So they show up with weapons and all this stuff in a big show of force, and of course here we are with tongue depressors and readers, eyeglasses, and we're running the clinic, and of course it was a little bit of overmatch, but we explained what we were doing, apologized emphatically, and a little bit of an embarrassment at the time, and they shut us down.
Okay.
And it was only because of the distribution of anti-inflammatories and Tylenol. I mean, the heaviest, we give out some
paracetamol.
So it's not like there's no controlled drugs or any of that type of thing, but it was just because, and we buy it all there in country at a dispensary. So, we're putting the money into their economy.
Right.
It's all, this has been thought through and worked through to the nth degree. But anyway, it was just a kind of a misunderstanding. And that was a lesson learned, that, we shut down the docs and the medical part, but we still did the glasses.
Okay.
Where what we do is kind of like SFA team. When you go in, you put glasses on the soldiers, and they start hitting the targets.
Sure.
Miracle. Hey, I can
Praise
see.
God.
I can see the target. Hallelujah. But yeah, it's that
This
type
guy's
of.
actually a good shooter.
Yeah, exactly. So it's that type of thing where we'll put glasses on a 40-year-old young woman that's never seen that there were really leaves on that big green thing over there.
Wow.
It's kind of, you see this look.
How
Well, that's the carrot. Then we take them over to the counseling table.
Yeah.
Where the local Thai church that has people that look just like them and speak fluently gives them the gospel.
Jeez.
And you can imagine the emotion, of course, but they're moved because, hey, there's these people that came from the other end of the globe, do not have to be here, but volunteer to be here, came from what they consider to be, the milk and honey, and here we are. And oh, by the way, I've just received a gift for free.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, and by the way, Thailand is 90+% Buddhist.
Okay.
So evangelizing to a Buddhist is actually very easy.
Okay.
It's, you and I have been to the land of Islam and many Muslims, which some consider a challenge. Actually, that's actually, in my opinion, is not that hard either, just because of the nature of Islam. It's a very cold, but it's not a personal relationship that you and I enjoy with the Holy Spirit, with Jesus. Our God and our relationship with our God is very compelling to someone that either Buddhist or a Hindu, that good works will get you stature, will get you a place in heaven, and they quickly realize that we're all faulty and that we're never going to be good enough to get there. But when they hear the gospel and they understand the gift, and it's very appealing. And so we walk out of there and we'll see, I don't know, 1,500 to 2,000 people say in 2 weeks. And we'll have upwards of 600 or 700 salvations. And these are people that, oh, by the way, we take down the information.
Yeah.
And the infrastructure in Thailand is actually very squared away. I know you've been to third world countries. I've been all over Africa, and I've seen some third world countries that is they're very austere. The infrastructure is not what it could be. Thailand is actually, for that part of the world, is pretty put together, and they've got a handle on it. But so I say that just because coming back and handing off this data, a pile of names and addresses for people that showed up at a one-time free clinic in region whatever, City Square, we hand that off to the host nation church, and they are very diligent, very meticulous about following up on, Brother Aaron, Brother Hank, Sister Sarah, and they invite them to a house church or whatever they've established. But fortunately for us, we've been there enough now that we've gotten to go back to every region that we've visited previously. And we've seen where there was no church or a home church that was meeting in somebody's living room. Of 5 or 6 people grow into a church that is now 20 or 30 people. It's just like the Bible. And it's just like microsites or annexations and different church plants in America or any other place. So it's wonderful. Works out.
Incredible story. Brother Hank, take me 20 years down this road. So let's say you and your team and the teams you're putting together and the people you're bringing from the States or the rest of the world are getting together. They're doing this for 20 years and things are well and the martyrs are limited and the government allows you to do it. What happens 20 years from now? What does that look like?
That's an interesting question, because on our last iteration in last fall, we got to talking about that with Doug is the surgeon's name that put this together with Chris, the Australian pastor. And Chris is married to a Malaysian descent, Vicky's his wife. And Chris wants to take this ministry into Malaysia.
Okay.
And thinks that we will have much success there.
Really?
Doug wants to take this ministry into Cambodia
Okay.
and or Vietnam,
Okay.
which is kind of to the east of Thailand.
Sure.
For the first time ever, we took it across the border in October, and the first 2 days we conducted clinics in Myanmar.
Okay.
And Myanmar is in the northwest and to the west of Thailand
Okay.
on a map, and former Burma. And so if you Google or know any history of that part of the world, they've had some tensions and some conflict along the border, and they share a very long border with the country of Burma. And so we were a little anxious about going across border.
Yeah, of course.
We didn't go that far, but
I think
we
any
did,
border
but we
crossing
went
is-
into it was a typical border crossing. I mean, we walked across and carried all our stuff, and we had the truck with our gear and everything, but they separate. You become separated in a little bit piecemeal, and then there's this giant gaggle, and it's nowhere near as controlled as it is in the West.
Right, sure.
It's pretty willy-nilly. But we made it. Everybody got back
Praise
together,
God.
and we got back in the truck, and off we went. We did our thing. The miracle was the Thai church that hosts us. There's a language difference.
Okay.
On the border towns, they typically speak each other's language, and it's not a big, a huge deal. But the further into the country, of course, you would venture, that could become an issue. It did not become an issue at all, even though some of our Thais couldn't communicate with some of our Burmese or Myanmar hosts.
Okay.
But there was a pastor there. He was running a church. I mean, this guy, we prayed together. We broke bread together. It was just, we felt like we were at any other place in Thailand
Sure.
with him. He made us right at home.
He understood the gospel. and
Oh,
the mission.
and he was on fire. And boy, we drummed up. They had a couple hundred people that in this town. It was a pretty good sized town.
Mhm.
And I'm the guy that gets stuck out on the highway or the biggest thoroughfare.
Yeah.
The blonde
The
hair,
blonde
and
hair,
blue
blue
eyes.
eyes.
Hey, something ain't from around here. That guy,
6'2".
he doesn't belong here. But we have these big tarps in Thai.
Yeah.
Well, if we're in Myanmar or in Myanmar, we went and wrote it out, had them help
Right.
us write it in their script and everything
Sure.
on big cardboard signs, and there we are.
Yeah.
95 degrees, and sweating like crazy. But hey, free clinic, free medical clinic, and they just look to see, hey, what's this person that doesn't
Yeah.
live around here?
You're like the Liberty
Yeah,
tax
yeah.
guy.
But you get their attention, and then all of a sudden they see the sign, and they'll stop, and every moped going down the street, all of a sudden, they're all
Wow.
going to the clinic. So we were pretty successful. We spent 2 days there, and I think we had 46 salvations. 46 in 2 days.
Yeah,
I mean,
praise God.
there's churches in America that can't claim 46 salvations in 2 years.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
and this is by and large a Christian nation.
Yeah.
Where that, so that really to me that's what it's all about. That's what that makes it all worthwhile. I'll stand up for 17 hours on an airplane ride if I can get to the other end and scratch that itch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
And then, of course, the Hope Church in this case, that's where their work starts, because they harvest that. They catch them while they're,
While they're hot.
before the emotion settles
Right.
down, before they're on to the next thing,
Sure.
just like we are.
Seeds sown among.
Yeah, and they get them integrated. They get them hooked up into the local church. They reach out to them. They'll share a meal, and in some cases they'll start a church.
Yeah.
This was the church where we were hosting this clinic.
Yeah.
So everybody knew right where the guy's house was because they went there for the clinic.
Wow, yeah.
Next Sunday, here's church. Come on back.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. So he's probably got 30 to 50 people at this church.
Wow.
And of course that is Buddhist country.
Yeah.
That's not Christian,
Right.
predominant
Yeah.
territory. So, every little bit is
Sure.
going to count. But I see revival coming. So
Yeah.
20 years from now, my hope would be that either the perimeter expands
Yeah.
from Thailand where they started it.
Yeah.
But west through Myanmar, I could go over to India, or north. We already encountered Chinese-speaking Thai enclaves in Thailand.
Oh, wow.
Where entire towns, we just happened to cross to Thailand. We thought it was an unreached people group. And we came to find out that even the Thais couldn't speak to these folks because they were all speaking Chinese. All the signs downtown and everything, we were like, why aren't they reading the sign and coming to the clinic? You know, they didn't understand. So we hooked into the local police and got them to help us translate. And then we wrote our little signs on cardboard and stuff in Chinese, and boy, everybody was coming in. This is in Thailand,
Nice.
Up in the northern portion of Thailand. So, and yeah, I would say, you know, north across that border, but most probably to the east into either Vietnam, Cambodia, or both.
Right.
And as you know, Cambodia is, you know, fairly closed. You know, their government is. It would take some doing,
Sure.
I think, but you know, there's no miracle that's too great. And then the Myanmar thing with Pastor Chris, I think that is a reality for sure. 20 years that will be going on. I mean, there's churches in Kuala Lumpur and in different places in Myanmar there's large Christian enclaves.
Sure.
So. But as you and I know, you know, you said insurgents and things like that. There's insurgency in the southern part of Thailand. You know, there's places down there where the government doesn't often go, and the military doesn't travel freely. But they welcome us with open arms because we're not a threat to them. We're helping the people, and that's all they want to do. They see themselves as helping their people. So as long as we're not threatening, and we're giving away free medications or we're giving away free glasses and stuff, you know, it's not a religious thing at all. It's really, you know, so it's kind of strange because we'll go through checkpoints sometimes down in the southern part, and there's predominantly a Muslim presence down there as you get closer to the southern border. But as the archipelago goes out, it's just like the Philippines, you know, like the western portion down into Zamboanga and part of the bottom part of the Philippines. It's harder to police those. It's island hopping, you know, and it's just rickshaws and boats and things, and it's easy to maintain geographic presence.
Sure.
For an insurgent group or somebody that doesn't necessarily agree with what the capital's doing. So. Anyhow, we've been into some areas of the southern portion of Thailand that we travel in and out freely, and there was no conflict whatsoever. So, you know, it's kind of neat to see how faith kind of leapfrogs and, you know, can come to terms where politics can't.
Jesus always wins.
Amen. Yeah.
How does a guy or a family or a female that's a regular guy, like the classic definition of the regular guy, how do they get involved with a guy like you, whether financially or whether boots on the ground? How would a person get involved with a guy like you?
Well, I mean, we represent our local church.
Okay.
And that's I was moving out of Fayetteville. When I got out of the Army, I was not planning on staying here. We were heading somewhere else. But God and this church. God put us in our church, I think, specifically because of our calling. And this is my wife and our interests just couldn't have matched more perfectly. And they were willing to give us just enough rope to either hang ourselves or, you know, fortunately swing out there and hit a home run. But really, we have done very little but enjoy the fruits of, you know, other organization, other labor, and just perfect alignment. So, you know, I'm being very careful because I don't speak for I represent the church, and the church has given me tons of flexibility. But there are certain things that the church helps resource, and you know, we help resource the church. So, you know, it's a mutually beneficial arrangement. But the people that we generally take on these missions trips, they start GoFundMe pages, or they send out sponsorship letters, just like missions organizations and other, international missions or other church groups or other affiliations, because there's, it's not free. It's definitely not a completely free ride. That is from the perspective of this organization here in our city. There is other church affiliated organizations in Australia, in Dallas, Texas, in a couple places, other places in the United States that are represented through Pastor Chris, Brother Doug, and their organizations, that we find ourselves. Last time there was a couple from Indiana, and we know them dearly now because we've been on mission with them 3 or 4 times. But she is originally from Somalia. He's originally from the middle of Indiana, and they married and they met on mission and all this other stuff. But now they're dear friends of ours. You know?
Right.
So, if there ever was an average Joe, that would, his picture would be right there, from the heartland of America. But he is on fire for the Lord, and he'll do whatever it takes. People ask me, hey, you were in the Army, for 30 years. You obviously worked your way up the ladder and established some success. What do you do? Why is it so compelling that you lead people from, room to room, or that you go pick up or sweep or take out the trash? And, that's like, isn't that a little menial? And I'm like, no, that's what it's all about.
Sure.
I mean, everyone needs to be able to give way together, kind of thing. And, that's a big part of it. I'm not a trained medic. The people we take are, we seek out nurses and nurse practitioners and people with medical training and much education. I am not that person.
Right.
I'm educated. I've been to school, college, and all that jazz, but I'm not a medical practitioner. I'm not a licensed medic. And so people often say, well, do I have to be a medical practitioner in order to attend these? And the answer is absolutely not. Well, what am I going to do? Well, believe it or not, herding the cats is kind of the biggest, hardest part.
Yeah,
and
I understand.
It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of humility.
Yeah.
So if you can get out there and do that, and then what I often tell the team members is, listen, you're going to go over there and make such a big difference in their lives. I said, but when you get back, you're going to realize this is going to change you more than you could ever hope to have changed them.
Wow.
And every one of them, to a person, has come back later and said, you're right.
Yeah.
And once you get a little bit of that light in you, you want more. And then that's what I was telling Brother James is, once you plant that seed, they're going to come back, and they're going to come back for more and come back for more.
Right.
So it works both ways.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you taste the gospel. It's a beautiful thing.
So, my advice would be, if somebody has a heart or thinks that they want to develop this type of thing, either for themselves, for their family members, for friends, for all of the above. In my case, I would welcome you to come hang out with me and my friends.
Sure.
I'll introduce you to people, or I'll get you into my circle, and you can become affiliated with an organization that is involved in doing this.
Right.
I mean, our church is in 63 different countries.
Wow.
Indirectly, not any given day, but I mean, they have
Sure.
access and they have touched. And our church has a calling for unreached people groups, for reaching the unreached people group, because Jesus isn't going to come back until we touch every unreached people group,
Sure.
every nation. And so, believe it or not, 2020, there are groups out there. There's over 100. There's actually, I don't know if it's over 200. It depends on, who's counting on what day. But there are that many groups. It's hard to believe in this day and age that there's that many people that are either unreached or unengaged.
Wow.
But so the end state would be that everybody is at least reached.
Yeah. Finish the task.
Finish the task. And so, that would be my advice is, Matthew 28:19.
That's Team
You know,
Ruach's motto.
Send me, man. But that's kind of where we see ourselves. So, if anybody were to ever want to hook up with this average Joe, I can get you connected and or at least introduce you to, an avenue
Yeah.
to participate in this
That's
work.
good. So what I hear you saying is you need to love Jesus and be available, and all the doors are open.
Amen. That's right.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you for your time. Brother Hank here is an awesome guy. I'm really inspired just to be around him. Thanks for joining with us, and check us out at teamruach.com. Teamruach.com. Talk to you soon.